None of these women, none of your daughters, mothers, sisters, or family members in any way deserved what they got. They did nothing to me that warranted their death.
You are now listening to The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay on Spotify. A podcast aimed to uncover and share the stories behind heinous and insane acts that have been overlooked or overshadowed by mainstream media, getting justice for the voices that can't speak.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kay, and I am the host of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. A podcast designed to focus on crimes committed in the Black community that you don't hear about in mainstream media, giving a voice to those victims that have otherwise been silenced. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the second part of the Henry Louis Wallace episode, A Monster Among Us. Now, I hope y'all got y'all bowl of popcorn and y'all glasses ready. I'm not doing no wine tonight. Y'all know usually I have my, glass of Stella Rosa. And shout out to Stella Rosa, by the way, because y'all know your girl loves some good old Stella Rosa wine, okay? But tonight I'm doing something a little bit different. I said, you know what? I'm going to need some Jack Daniels honey for this one, straight, no chaser. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into tonight's episode. This is part 2 of Henry Louis Wallace. Now, to remind you, the case involves the following victims: Sharon Nance, Caroline Love, Audrey Spain, Valencia Jumper, Michelle Stinson, Vanessa Mack, Betty Jean Baucom, Brandy Henderson, and Deborah Slaughter. And of course, our infamous murderer and just jackass, Henry Louis Wallace. Now, when we last left off, Henry had kind of taken, I guess you could say, like a cool down period because Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department had kind of picked up heavy patrol presence and everything in the neighborhoods. Plus, he had a baby. And, I guess it made him say, all right, I need to chill out a little bit. But then on February 20th, 1994, Henry was back at it. Vanessa Mack became his next victim. Vanessa Little Mack was born July 1st, 1969 in Charlotte, North Carolina to John Little and Virginia Morrison. At the time of her death, she was 25 years old and was a mother of 2 daughters, 7-year-old Natara and 4-month-old Natalia. She worked at Carolina's Medical Center as a patient escort, and her parents described her as a bright and vibrant young woman. And this was something that, Henry wanted. He liked it. He loved it. So he went over to Vanessa's house and she lets him in and they start having a conversation and everything. They're talking for a little bit and he goes through his usual routine of the whole, all right, I'm going to head out. He gets up and he asks her for a hug, but Vanessa actually gave him a response that he just wasn't ready for. So he hits her with the, give me a hug. She curved that ass so quick and she was like, no, boy, bye. And I guess that kind of threw him off a little bit. So, he tried to regain composure and he's just like, well, all right, I guess, my bad. But hey, you think I could get something to drink? And of course, she goes ahead and gets ready to get him something to drink. As soon as she turns around, he pulls a pillowcase from underneath his shirt, wraps it around her throat from the back, and just starts choking her, demanding her bank card. Why? Because he's still dealing with that damn drug addiction. That little crack monkey is on his back hard as fuck. And he needing to get his little fix, but he ain't got no money, old broke ass. So he's taking her card and he's all aggressive with her. Give me the fucking code to the card. What's the fucking code? Not, wanting to piss him off. She's like, all right, I'm gonna give it to you. So she gives him the code. Now, instead of him just letting her go, he knows now, like, well, shit, she know who I am. I ain't getting out of this shit. I gotta, do to her like I did these other chicks. So he drags her to her bedroom and he raped her, and then he strangles her with a towel. He leaves and he ends up getting down the street and calls him a little cab. Like, bruh is excited because he got her debit card and he just know he about to get some money off that bitch. He gets out the cab, goes to the ATM, and he puts in the code that she gave him, but it wasn't the right code. Like, nigga, did you actually think she was gonna give you the code for real? The fuck? Hell nah, bro. You just did all of that and your stupid ass is still broke. He just spent all this evening with this girl, trying to, finesse her, trying to get her bank card. You raped her, you killed her. You get the bank card and she gives you the code, and you actually think she was going to give you the real code. Then you take a taxi to go to an ATM, which, by the way, he had this like very noticeable earring because y'all know the ATMs have cameras in it. Well, he had this earring in his ear that was very noticeable. Like, you didn't think this through at all. I'm on some whole Cat Williams type stuff right now. Like, how do you feel about you, simple bitch? Like, you didn't think about this shit at all. So he goes home broke and clearly can't, scratch that little itch. Now, the next morning, Vanessa's mom is coming over to the house to get the babies. She would keep Vanessa's kid while Vanessa went to work. So she arrives a little before 6 o'clock in the morning, and she walks up to the door and she sees it's cracked open. She's thinking, that's a little weird. Maybe she left it open knowing I was coming. Sometimes we'll go crack the door if I know somebody coming to the house, which I probably shouldn't do. And after this story, probably nobody should ever do. And I'm pretty sure everybody's going to be, second guessing now. But, sometimes if we know somebody coming to the house, we'll crack the door so that way they ain't got to knock or something because we know they coming in. So she's thinking it's something like that. So she goes ahead and she walks inside the apartment and she starts looking around. Now the girls are asleep on the couch, but she don't see Vanessa nowhere. So I guess her mother's instinct picked up real quick because she knew something was wrong. Vanessa ain't the type to leave, to leave her babies. Like, she's like, all right. She starts walking through the apartment and, she's looking through the kitchen and the bathroom, but she don't see nothing. And then she goes into her daughter's bedroom and she lets out this blood curdling scream because she sees her daughter's semi naked body laying across the bed with something wrapped around her throat. The cops get there and, they look around and they're like, oh shit, the killer is back. They know it's about to be some shit. They tried, to cover it up and not put it out in the media that another young black girl was raped and murdered. And nobody tells how, Vanessa is the sister to an employee at Taco Bell. Everything just kind of stayed under wraps, which was crazy to me because I feel like had they put that in the media, had they really run that story, it could have been a different outcome. Not saying that Henry wasn't dumb enough to try to go, kill somebody again, but it's a lot of what ifs in this situation. What if the cops would have handled things differently? What if they would have, put more thought and matter and practice into these young girls in this neighborhood? Because this is all within a 5 mile radius of each other. So about 3 weeks later, Henry's drug habit is once again fucking with him. He's feeling so bad because he ain't had a hit like that. And, he killed Vanessa with the hopes of getting money, but he ain't get shit. And what money he did have, he spent on his little taxi cab. And, y'all remember, oh my God, this is so off topic, but y'all remember the movie Hustle and Flow? She was like, I hope you ain't think I got no money because I done went and spent all my little money on a taxi cab ride. That's what that nigga did. He spent all his little money on that taxi cab ride. Like, this nigga is a bona fide true crackhead at this point. So he says, all right, I'm gonna do something a little different this time. I'm gonna make sure I get this money. I know exactly how I'm gonna do it. And on March 8th, 1994, he decides to go kick it with his friend Vernis Woods. Now, he and Vernis knew each other from their days of working at Golden Corral. And he told Vernis that he was going to come hang out, but his plan was to actually rape and rob Vernis's girlfriend, Brandy Henderson. But when he got there, Vernis answered the door. Now, that kind of threw Henry off because he just knew Vernus was at work. And, he had to think on his feet real quick. So he's like, shit, what am I going to do? All right, I didn't expect this nigga to answer the door. He kind of plays it off and, he smiles and greets his boy. And Vernus is concerned at first because he sees him just standing there. He like, yo, nigga, you good? Like, what's going on? And Henry tells him, yeah, man, I'm good. I just wanted to come by and let you know I was leaving town for a while. And, I kind of wanted to say bye and congrats on the new baby. Okay, quick backtrack. Vernus and his girl Brandy had just had a new baby boy named Tyrese. So, Vernus is believing Henry when he tells him, oh, I'm about to head out. I'm about to leave town for a little bit. And he's like, all right, man, just holler at me when you get back. But while Henry is there talking to his boy, he sees somebody else visiting the apartment that lives there. And he realizes, oh shit, I know Shorty. She know my girl. This Shorty was named Betty Baucom. Betty worked at Bojangles with his girlfriend Sadie. Betty was actually the assistant manager at Bojangles, which was the perfect jackpot for Henry. He gets this bright idea and starts thinking, yo, you know what? If she the assistant manager, she probably got the key to the safe so I can get some money. And I get it on this one. He actually did use his brain a little bit, but that I still don't condone. Like, that's not me condoning this shit at all. But he's finally thinking to say, okay, let me get somebody that might actually be able to get my ass some money instead of just picking random women and just killing them and shit. Does not mean Betty Baucom deserved to die. Okay. Let's be very clear about that. But she's in a position where she potentially could, get access to it. So I got where he was coming from on that, but still, this nigga was just dumb as fuck. Okay. So anyway, he starts putting his plan into motion with Betty Jean Baucom. Now, Betty Jean Baucom, who went by Susie, was born March 7th, 1970 in Laurinburg, North Carolina. Her paternal parents gave her up for adoption, and she was adopted by Betty Jean White. Her relatives described her as a young woman with a very lovely smile. One person said she was one of the nicest people that you could just ever come across. And that niceness ended up costing her her life. Just 2 days after her 24th birthday, Betty's at her apartment, which is at Lake Apartments in her unit, when she gets a knock at the door. She goes to answer it and she sees a familiar face. There's Henry. And he comes in, hey, sorry to bother you, but do you mind if I use your phone? And of course, she's happy to help because this is her coworker's man and she's seen him many times before. So she gives him her phone and he's pretending to look up a number. The minute she turns her back to go do something else, he grabs her and starts demanding the keys to the restaurant. Now, this is, like I said, this is where I got my issue with him because he can't do this, to your face. He got to wait until these chicks turn their back. Like he's being, that's a coward. Like that's some coward shit to me. Like you wait until a woman turns her back because you know that ultimately if you did that shit while they were facing you, you would probably punk out or hell, they could fight back. So he waits until she turns around and he grabs her and he starts demanding the keys. Give me the fucking keys to the restaurant. Betty is shook. And she's scared as hell. She's, wait, what are you doing? What are you talking about? But he ain't letting up. He's like, give me the fucking keys. I want the combination to the safe and I want the alarm code now. And them crackheads be shaking and shit. So ain't no telling how he was spazzing the fuck out. But Betty's scared as hell. She's refusing to give him anything. She's like, nigga, kiss my ass. You're damn right. I ain't giving you shit. She don't want to because she know what he about to do. Now, okay, people, if you got somebody that hell, even if you don't know them, if you are acquainted with them in any way, and they trying to jack you for whatever and they already got their hands on you, just give it to them. Okay, just give it to them. It's not worth it. The main thing that you need to do is stay alive. And if anything, shit, you come at me like this and you talking about give me the code, give me the keys. Shit, I'm gonna try to help you. I'm gonna be like, hell yeah, here you go. We gonna rob that shit together or some, crazy shit like that. Just so that I can make sure I survive and guarantee my safety. And then I'm gonna snitch. Oh, I'm gonna snitch on your ass. But, Betty didn't do that. And it took about 30 minutes of him like demanding it before she finally gives him the combination that he's been trying to get out of her. But hold up. The fact that it took you 30 minutes, like you literally sat there for 30 minutes doing this shit. Keep in mind, y'all, the whole time he's choking her up and all of that. And she eventually does give in to him. But I'm like, 30 minutes, nigga? Okay. Anyway, so she finally gives in to him, and that's when he stops hurting her. And she's firing off questions. Why are you doing this? And he tells her, I'm sick. I, I've hurt so many people. I'm sick. I'm sorry. And Betty, she gets up and she tells him, nigga, you need to get help. Like, I'm going to try to forget what the hell you just did, but you really need to get help. And then he looks at her again, and he's starting to get that lustful look in his eye. Like, it's weird because it's like, yo, are you getting off on them fearing you? Are you getting off on being in control? Like, it seems like that's what it is, but he's actually starting to get aroused. And he tells her, nah, baby, ain't no helping me. And the next thing you know, he grabs Betty by the throat. He pushes her to the floor. Then he drags her to the bedroom, puts a towel around her neck, choking her right to the point that she almost passes out. He goes through his same MO of ripping off her clothes and raping her. And he takes all of the money out of her purse and he strangles her to death. Not only that, but he takes all the valuables that he can, including the gold chain that she had around her neck and the keys to her car, which was a light blue Pulsar. He pawns off everything except her car, and he ended up ditching it at like this local shopping complex. So the next day, Betty was supposed to go to work at Bojangles, but she never made it. So her boss, Jeffrey Ellis, ends up calling her house and he doesn't hear from her. They're like these are some caring bosses, okay? I like the fact that they are so involved with their employees. But at first he's thinking, all right, well maybe she's just running late or something. But then when she never shows up altogether, and then the very next day she don't show up again, that's when Jeffrey calls the cops and says, you know what? I think something's up. These girls have been disappearing. Something's wrong. She never showed up. And so Charlotte police officer Gregory Norwood gets the call and he goes to Betty's apartment. So he had to get the building superintendent to let him in. And that's when, oh shit, they find Betty lying face down on her bed. Now, this time she was fully clothed, but she had a towel around her neck like the other women. They see that her TV and VCR had been taken. Her car was missing, which was like of course, a red flag to them. So they immediately put an APB out on the car. And they're checking all the pawn shops and everything because they know this nigga stole the shit. So all of this is going on, and the police are investigating the death of Betty while Henry is just spiraling. Like he is in full out fuck all this shit mode. This nigga goes back the same night, like less than 12 hours later, to the same complex because now he knows his boy Vernus is going to be at work. And he still wants to go through with that plan to rob Brandy. Remember, Brandy is Vernus's baby mama or girlfriend, and they just had a baby, okay? Brandy June Henderson was born November 21st, 1975, to Clarence Henderson and Deborah Childers. Friends and family said that she was full of life and was friendly with everybody, and she loved people. At the time of her death, y'all, she was only 18 and a brand new mom. Her and her boyfriend, Vernus Lamar Woods, had a beautiful son, Tyrese, that she had just given birth to like months before. She was still in high school, like a baby herself. She's at home while her man is at work, and she's taking care of the baby, and she hears a knock at the door. And she goes to answer, and there's Henry, and he's like, "Oh, hey girl, I got something here for Vernus. You mind if I drop it off?" And she's like, "Okay, cool." Now, she doesn't know that Henry had told Vernus that he was going to be leaving town for a while. She's in the house with her baby, and Henry comes in pretending to drop something off for him. And he tells her, "Oh, congratulations on the new baby. He's so cute. I know you're happy." And then he asks her for something to drink. And of course, she agrees. She's hospitable. So she gets up to go get it. And he just grabs her and attacks her from behind. He's mad as hell, and he's, itching and fiending and begging, "Give me all your money. Give me all your money." And she's telling him, I don't have anything. All I got is a can of Pringles filled with change. But I mean, I ain't got no real money. And this is where I'm starting to think.
No, you done fucked up, right? No, 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 no. You know you done fucked up, right?
Y'all, I swear this nigga is he'd make a wall look smart. Like, that's how dumb he is. Bruh, she's 18. 18 and in high school. You actually thought she had money like that? She's a new mom. She's not working, and her boyfriend works at a fast food restaurant. Every dime that they have is probably going towards taking care of the bills and taking care of their new baby. How stupid can you be? Like, ooh, this shit makes my blood boil. Okay, I'm back. So, Henry knows he's fucked. Soon as he hears I got a can of Pringles full of change, fuck. Like, if this nigga was any dumber, you'd have to water him, okay? So he drags her to the bedroom and he tells her to take off her clothes, and she's pleading with him. She knows what's about to happen. And she's like, "Please don't do this. Please, I got a baby. Please just let me go to my baby." But he tells her, "Nope. Ain't no way in fuck I'm about to let you go get that baby." But she just keeps begging, and she keeps begging, and she keeps begging until he allows her to go to her son. He takes her to the room with the baby, and she's holding the baby the entire time while Henry is raping her. Oh, Jesus. So when he gets done, he tells her to get dressed, and she puts the baby back in the crib. And it's almost like I think she felt like she knew her fate was coming. So he goes and he gets a towel out of the bathroom, and he wipes away all of the evidence that he was there, and he strangles her. The entire time the baby is screaming, and Brandy can't get to him because now she's dead. Henry is trying to keep the baby quiet because it's a newborn. It's gonna scream and holler. And, most babies, they're familiar with their mother's smell and their mother's touch. And like, if that baby was anything like mine, my baby boy would be hollering. But the minute that he touched my skin, just, wah, silence, you know and he knows that he's got to quiet the baby. So he goes back into the bathroom and gets a smaller towel, and he wraps it around the baby's neck, y'all. Like, this nigga actually put a towel around a baby's neck, and the baby starts sputtering and choking and stops crying. And he just left both of them. This sick motherfucker really choked a baby, an innocent baby. Like, why not just let the baby scream? It's not like he could identify you or fucking leave. Instead, you try to kill a baby, you choke his mama, and you kill her, and then you just leave him to basically, you leave him for dead. So when he does leave, he takes her TV and her stereo, and he goes and pawns it. He gets like $175 for it, and he goes and spends it on crack to satisfy his fix. Vernus gets off work, and he comes home from the late shift, and he walks into the bedroom ready to see his girl and his baby boy, and he sees Brandy lying lifeless on the bed, and he's like, "What the hell? Oh my God." He sees the towel around her neck. He goes running into the baby's room and he sees the towel around his son's neck and he just panics. He picks baby Tyrese up and he realizes after a few seconds, oh, thank God, he's still breathing. So he breathes this sigh of relief and he calls 911 and they come out and they check out the scene and they check the baby out. And by the grace of God, y'all, that baby survived without any injuries. The cops at this point are questioning, and or rather they're getting questioned left and right, like, why the fuck aren't y'all doing anything? What the hell is going on? And they ain't answering nobody, so all they do is just increase police patrols and all of that. And Detective Sergeant McFadden, he's like, all right, you know what, we need to revisit all of this shit. So he gets his team together and they start revisiting the evidence. Now, he had requested the FBI's help in drawing up a profile on the killer, but the FBI was like, it doesn't look like it's done by the same person. Remember, y'all, Henry has switched up his MO on the killings with the stabbings and all of that. But McFadden was adamant. He was like, yo, this is the same person. McFadden was pretty much just like, listen, I know for a fact that this is the same person. Y'all ain't about to have me out here looking stupid. Like, no. So he's like, all right, we're gonna look at all of the victims and see if there's a connection. So he starts asking the questions that should have been asked originally. Do they work together? Do they go to the same school? Do they move in the same social circles? And supposedly the cops had, tried this before, but they drew a blank. But now something is kind of jumping out at the whole situation to McFadden. So they go back to every victim's family and they're like, hey, so we need a little favor from y'all. We need y'all to come up with a list, of everybody, anybody that y'all were close with, anybody that they were friends with, anybody that they talked to on a regular basis. And the investigators are going through the list from everybody and they see that there's one name in common. Henry Louis Wallace, the manager of the damn Taco Bell. So I just got a question. Why wasn't this done from jump? I mean, like, shouldn't y'all have done that when it was like victim number one or victim number two? Why wasn't this done from jump? What was the reason that it took so long to do something that was so obvious? What was the reason?
What was the reason?
Police department get together, investigators get together, and they start thinking about it, and they finally realize, oh shit, he is linked to all of them. Shauna Hawk and Audrey Spain both worked with him at Taco Bell. Michelle Stinson, she ate at the Taco Bell all the time and would have conversations with Henry. Valencia Jumper was a friend of his sister, Yvonne. Vanessa Mack, she was the sister of one of Henry's ex-girlfriends. Betty Bauckham was a friend of Henry's girlfriend, Sadie. Brandy Henderson was the girlfriend of Wallace's friend and ex-coworker, Bernice Woods. And even with Caroline Love, even though they never discovered her body, she was the roommate of Sadie McKnight. So they're starting to see the connection. All of this is starting to make sense. Now, they can't really say anything to Henry yet because they don't want to, scare him off. So they decide, you know what, we're going to go and talk to his girlfriend. They go to see Sadie and they're telling her, listen, your man is potentially out here murdering chicks. What you got to say about that? And she's like, what? This got to be some type of crazy coincidence. Not my man. That's my man and I'm going to stick by him. And then she sits back and she's like, wait a minute. This nigga been giving me rings and necklaces and shit. And she's like, oh shit. He been giving me jewelry off of dead girls. Like, I'm literally living with a monster. So I could only imagine how Sadie feels like to know that the person that you're in a relationship with is just going around and just murdering women and raping women. Like, you got to get the fuck out. Like, the fact that I can't even gather my words together for that. Like, that's I really sympathize with her. But anyway, so they're starting to see the connection. Everything is starting to make sense. And, like I said, they can't really say anything to Henry about it because they don't want to scare him off. So on March 11th, 1994, they end up finding Betty Baucom's stolen car. All of the fingerprints had been wiped off from the steering wheel, the gear shift, everything except for the trunk. They ended up finding a handprint off of it, and it was matched to Henry's. So they run his name to see if he had any type of criminal record, and of course he did. And they saw that he had all kind of burglaries, armed rape, and an outstanding warrant for failure to appear on a larceny charge from the month before. All of this, and y'all couldn't find him. The fuck. Anyway, they decide to put a manhunt out on him, and yeah, that same day, Henry is getting his final victim. This time, he goes after one of Sadie's co-workers, or rather, he goes after another one of Sadie's co-workers, Deborah Slaughter. Now, he claimed that Deborah was on drugs and he knew that it would be easier to get her to get the drugs. Deborah Ann Slaughter was born January 15th, 1959, to Alfonso Slaughter and Levi Williams. Now, Deborah was a bit older, which was a little different because Henry typically went towards the younger girls, but Deborah was like 35. She had an 18-year-old son and she worked with Sadie at Bojangles. Oh, and guess where she lived, by the way? The Lake Apartment, same place that Brandy and Verness and Betty lived. So Deborah's at home, and despite the fact that this police presence is so heavy looking for Henry, he somehow manages to sneak into the complex, knocks on Deborah's door, and he goes to her and he's like, "Hey, you got some money so I can go buy some drugs?" And she looking at that nigga crazy like, boy, I got money to pay my rent. That's about it. But he is desperate. This man was so mad and depressed that he couldn't get no drugs. And, he just knew Deborah was going to have his back. But she was like, nah, nigga, I got to pay my rent. So in his mind, that meant, all right, she got money. And so he asks her if he can get something to drink. He waits till she turns her back, grabs a towel, and puts it around her neck. But y'all, Deborah is fighting. She know what's up almost immediately. She's struggling with him and fighting him back. And she's like, you the one that killed Brandy and Betty. And he's like, I don't know what you talking about, but you gonna give me some head. How the fuck you go from demanding money so that you can get high to you gonna give me some head? The fuck? And she's like, no the fuck I ain't. I ain't doing that shit. You might as well go ahead and kill me. But he's tightening the towel around her neck and he's like, oh, you sure about that? Cause I can make you do what I want right about now. But she ain't having that. Deborah's like, what the fuck I say? Hell no, I ain't doing that shit. You might as well kill me then, nigga. So he pulls tighter, making it difficult for her to breathe until she becomes like kind of submissive a little bit. And he rapes her and tells her to get dressed. Now, he knew Deborah was a little bit of a gangster, okay? Deborah was thuggish. Clearly, she could handle some shit and wasn't backing down from nobody. Like, she kept a knife on her. So he told her to empty out her purse, and sure enough, she empties it out and there's a knife inside. So he kicks it away, making sure she can't get to it. And he demands the money that she got in her wallet. She gave that nigga $40, the $40 that she had. And she smacks the dog piss out of this boy. And she's screaming for the police like loud as hell. She's like, yo, help me, somebody help. That's what I'm talking about. Make it fucking difficult. She had that type of mentality of if I'm going down, if I'm gonna die, fuck you. I'm gonna die fighting. I rocks with that. So she's screaming for the cops and he's twisting a towel around her throat, but she kicking and screaming so damn loud. She's kicking so hard that he had to sit on her legs to keep her from making too much noise, like the way he was kicking, the way she was kicking the floor. He's like, shit, this gonna get the neighbors' attention downstairs. So he grabs a sock and he stuffs it in her mouth, and then he ties another towel around her neck and grabs this knife, the same knife that he had kicked away that came out of her purse. He took it and just started stabbing her. Stab, 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 stab. He stabs her 38 times in the stomach and in the chest. Leaves, and then he goes to buy some crack. Comes back to the very same apartment a few hours later with a glass pipe and smokes it in her bathroom while she's laying dead. When he got done, he grabbed a Chicago White Sox jacket, a baseball cap, and a butcher knife, and then he left again. And then he threw away all of the items that he had used at her apartment and just dumped them. So, of course, by this time, the cops are basically looking for his ass. All right. He ain't got but so many places that he can go. Deborah's body was found March 12th, 1994, by her 18-year-old son. Officers Gilbert Allred and Sidney Wright found Henry hiding in the bathroom at a friend's house nearby right after he committed the last murder. So he's arrested and he's taken in for questioning. And he's being questioned for about 12 hours or so. While he's in questioning, he confesses to all 9 murders. He tells them the most graphic details, and he also confesses to 2 other murders that he committed before he even moved back to Charlotte that nobody even knew about outside of these 9 women. Now, remember, I told you Tashanda Bethea was one of them, Sharon Nance was another. So, he tells them, like, oh, thank God, it feels like a big burden has been lifted off of me. Even though he was, killing them and robbing them, everything, he told the police, no, the motive for me to do this wasn't to feed my addiction, it was the sex. I fulfilled my fantasies of power and control. I told y'all, I knew the shit, the way he was acting, it had to do something with him getting off on control. I knew it. I fucking knew it. The detectives, they start asking questions, such as, well, do you think you might be schizophrenic? And he legit answers, no, there's only one Henry, and that's a bad Henry. So throughout all of this, the cops are still catching hell, and they fucking should. Everybody in the community felt like the girls that died weren't a priority because of the fact that they were black and because they were living in low income areas. Deborah's father said to the media, to me, the girls just weren't important to the police. They didn't live in a high rent district. They weren't famous or known. They worked in fast food joints and they didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes. And I get it. Like, a lot of times, we as Black people are overlooked when it comes to murders like this. The same things that keep occurring are just ignored. If y'all would have looked into it and really did a deep dive, especially once it hit about, 3 or 4 murders, y'all could have seen the common denominator was Henry. The first thing that you should have done in a murder investigation is get a fucking list of who that person is interacting with. That's common sense. That's fucking criminal law 101. Y'all would have been able to see from jump, all right, this nigga is literally involved with every single person to an extent. Now, ugh, I'm sorry. That just, it really irks me. It really does. So the police chief, he's beyond excited and happy that, they have Henry in custody. And he's trying to reassure the community that now the women of East Charlotte were safe. After 11 fucking murders, after 11 rapes, now you say, oh, everybody's safe. The fuck? Then he tries to say that he was unaware of the killer until early March of 1994 when 3 Black women were murdered within 4 days. And then, they hit everybody with the, oh, we're sorry that we didn't, figure out the link between the murders sooner. That's all you got? Like, y'all didn't even warn the citizens until March 9th that the serial killer was on the loose. And by this point, he had already murdered the majority of the women that you found out about. So The fuck? On April 4th, 1994, Henry Louis Wallace is indicted for the murders of Caroline Love, Shauna Hawk, Audrey-Ann Spain, Valencia M. Jumper, Michelle Stinson, Vanessa Little Mack, Betty Jean Baucom, Brandy June Henderson, and Deborah Slaughter. Now, in addition, he was indicted for first degree rape of Caroline Love, second degree rape of Shauna Hawk, 2 counts of second degree sexual offense against Shauna Hawk, which was like fellatio and cunnilingus, first degree rape of Audrey Spain, robbery with a dangerous weapon of Audrey Spain, first degree rape of Valencia Jumper, first degree sexual offense against Valencia Jumper, first degree rape of Michelle Stinson, first degree sexual offense against Michelle Stinson, first degree rape of Vanessa Mack, robbery with a dangerous weapon of Vanessa Mack, first degree rape of Betty Baucom, robbery with a dangerous weapon of Betty Baucom, first degree rape of Brandy Henderson, robbery with a dangerous weapon of Brandy Henderson, assault with a deadly weapon inflicting serious injury against Tyrese, Henderson's 10-month-old son at the time, assault on a child under 12 years of age against Tyrese, first degree rape of Deborah Slaughter, and robbery with a dangerous weapon of Deborah Slaughter. Oh shit, that was a whole bunch of offenses and damn, that was a whole bunch of charges. Whew. So Henry's getting ready to go to trial, but it takes 2 years because of the choice of venue and DNA evidence and everything from the victims, not to mention jury selection. So it wasn't until 1996 that he actually went to trial. September 1996, his trial began in Mecklenburg County Superior Courthouse. He had a defense attorney by the name of Isabel Day. Prosecutor Marcia Goodnow was on it from jump, though. She was like, listen, he needs the death penalty. This man killed 11 women, only 9 of whom we found. He needs the fucking death penalty. He got a kick out of saying that one of his victims was leathery and looked like E.T. That don't sound like somebody that's sorry. It sounds like somebody that gets off on stuff like that. Henry's defense attorney, Isabel Day, she's trying to argue everything that the prosecutor is saying because naturally her job is to defend Henry. And she's arguing, like, yeah, he killed those people, but let's consider that he also has, a life. Should he be executed for this? No, we're asking for a life sentence because he suffers from mental illness. And these murders weren't premeditated. He just got caught up in the moment. Um, really? She literally says it wasn't first degree murder. Ma'am, that's bullshit. This man knew that he was going to go over there and rob and rape these women and kill these women. He did it every single time. He charmed his way in. He used his charm to get their guard down. He raped these women. He robbed these women and he killed them. How the fuck is that not first degree murder? How is that not premeditated? Get the fuck. Okay. Psychologist Faye Sultan, she testified during the trial that Henry was a victim of physical and mental abuse because of his mother, and that he had this mental illness during the times of the killings, and that he, a life sentence without parole would be better than just the death penalty. Now, the trial lasted for about 4 months, and on January  7th, 1997, the jury found Henry Louis Wallace guilty of 9 counts of first degree murder, each on the basis of malice, premeditation, and deliberation, and under the felony murder rule, sorry. In addition, the jury also found Henry guilty of 8 counts of first degree rape, 1 count of second degree rape, 2 counts of first degree sexual offense, 2 counts of second degree sexual offense, 1 count of assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count of assault on a child under the age of 12, and 5 counts of robbery with a dangerous weapon. A few weeks later, on January 29th, 1997, the judge and the jury was like, yeah, we know that you asked for, life without parole, but sorry, you ain't gonna get that. The jury recommended a sentence of death for each of the 9 counts of first degree murder. When he heard that, Henry just sat there quiet. When it was his time to say something, he gets up and he makes a statement to the victim's family and says, "None of these women, none of your daughters, mothers, sisters, or family members in any way deserved what they got. They did nothing to me that warranted their death. But yet you killed them. Like, I have no sympathy for you, dude. You deserve to rot." Katie Love, who was Caroline's sister, told the reporter that she didn't buy it. She said, "I don't believe he's sorry. He wouldn't have lied to me for 2 years while my sister was missing and then killed all these other women." And many others, they felt the same way. Brandy Henderson's cousin, George Burrell, he just shook his head and he wanted to know what made Henry do it. And Isabel was that poor child was just torn up. After the guilty verdict, she's like, "Well, Henry is very sick. He's very mentally ill." She was boohooing at the end of the trial. And they said it wasn't because she lost, but it was because of the high emotion that she had to kind of like put to the side and suspend because of her, concentration and everything on the case. So Henry is taken to Central Prison in Raleigh, North Carolina, where he was placed on death row. Now, oddly enough, the next year, y'all, on June 5th, 1998, Henry ended up getting married. That was the strangest shit that I have ever read. Yes, there are prison weddings. I get that. That's not what I mean when I say it's strange. Y'all, he married the former prison nurse by the name of Rebecca Torrijos. I guess this fool really had swag, because how fucking sway? How you pulled a prison nurse? What? How? Like, they had a ceremony next to the state's execution chamber. Ain't that some romantic shit? These niggas got married next to the execution chamber. Oh my God. That is so funny to me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but I'm freaking weak. These fools got married like next to the damn execution chamber. What kind of sick shit? Oh, but guess who the official witness and photographer was? His good old defense attorney, Isabella Day, the same one that was like, "Oh, I've got to put my feelings to the side, and this is so hard for me." She was right there as a witness. I guess they, had some type of friendship, and, you know, she could get the feelings out the way because he was a fucking monster, or is a fucking monster. Now, also in attendance of their little prison wedding was the manager of the death row unit at the prison. "Rebecca, girl, why in the entire fuck would you want to marry this man? Like, what possessed you to say, I'm going to marry a man that raped, robbed, and murdered 11 women? A man known as the Taco Bell Strangler. Like, make that make sense. This man will never, ever, ever get out, never get paroled unless he escapes or some shit. But he is never getting out. Not to mention, you can't even consummate your marriage because he's on a fucking death row." But supposedly, Rebecca visits him often, and their wedding day lightens the daily load that he carries. I guess so, considering that his ass went to prison at about 180 pounds and now he's damn near 400. I bet you the thoughts do lighten your load, because motherfucker, you big as hell right now. Since he was sent to death row, Henry has been appealing to the courts to overturn the death penalty, stating that his confessions were coerced and that his constitutional rights had been violated. But the North Carolina Supreme Court upheld the death sentences in 2000, and again in 2001, the U.S. Supreme Court denied his appeal again. He then tried to appeal in 2005, but Superior Court Judge Charles Lamb rejected it to overturn the convictions and the 9 death sentences, mainly because while he was in prison, he was talking about other murders that he's committed. Like, Henry says that he killed damn near 20 women and not just the 11 that we knew of. Now, there were some that were killed while he was in the Navy, supposedly. Like, why the fuck would you think that your appeal would be approved if you're telling people, oh, well, yeah, you know, I killed other people. Like, they're not gonna approve that shit. Boy, get the hell out of here with that. I hope your big ass have a heart attack. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Sadie McKnight, aka Peppermint, she passed November 16th, 2018, leaving behind her daughter. I guess she said after all of this, she was like, man, fuck that nigga. I don't know if the daughter that she has is Henry's, because at one point, like I said, the research showed that she was pregnant, but nothing was mentioned if he ever had a child outside of the one that he had with that side chick. I wonder how she handled all of that, knowing that her man just really was out here killing women. Like, you sleeping with a stranger, boo. And a part of me wonders, like, did she know and just chose to ignore it? But one thing for certain is that the families and friends of Tashanda Bethea, Sharon Nance, Caroline Love, Shauna Hawk, Audrey Spain, Valencia Jumper, Michelle Stinson, Vanessa Mack, Betty Bockham, Brandy Henderson, and Deborah Slaughter can now rest easy, knowing that the man responsible will pay for his crimes. That is all for this week's episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast. Be sure to follow the show on the following. On X, it is Infamous One Pod, and that is number one, by the way, Infamous One Pod. Instagram and TikTok at Infamous One Podcast, also the number one, by the way, not spelled out, and you can leave a review there. On Facebook, you can send a friend request to the Infamous Ones or join the private discussion group, the Infamous Ones Discussion Group. I don't know why I have to keep saying this. Again, if you don't answer the questions, your ass ain't getting in. I literally got like 3 people right now that's just sitting there because they asses didn't answer the questions. You don't answer, no entrance. Okay, you ain't getting no VIP treatment. The show streams on multiple streaming services like Odyssey, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and so on and so on. Make sure to leave a review, people. It only takes a few seconds. Leave a damn review. Shout out to those of you that have left reviews. Leave them 5 stars. Leave a little quick review letting me know, hey, what you think of the show, what you think of the episode. Let me know what you drinking, because y'all know every episode I got a glass filled with something and I got my bowl of popcorn. So you let me know, hey Kay, I'm listening to your episode and I'm sipping on, whatever, be it water, soda, Moscato, whatever, baby. You let me know what you drinking, okay? Now, speaking of reviews, let's get into them. This one comes from Anitria J. Now, okay, this one was flagged because sis says some shit that had Spotify like, wait a minute. But it was on the Imani Moss episode. A lot of people had a lot to say about that one. And it says, I'm with you about the death penalty. They need to torture her ass like she did this poor baby. Awesome case as always. Thank you, sugar. Y'all, okay, listen, when leaving reviews, you might have to like say some stuff like punish or unalive versus, they need to torture her ass, because the word torture like literally triggers Spotify. So the same way that we are with Facebook when we say stuff like unalive, try to use words like that just to be on the safe side. The next review comes from My Denmo, and it says, enjoy, love a good true crime storyteller, excuse me. The facts and your personal commentary make it even more entertaining. Only on the first episode, but I'll be a regular listener. Let's go. I am here for all of it. Okay. The way I'm over here cheesing like a chick about to get some money from her sugar daddy without giving him any sugar. Thank you, boo. And remember, my exclusive Infamous Ones, starting in May, I will be dropping more than one episode a week for you all, but only for those that subscribe as exclusive Infamous Ones, okay? It's going to focus on something that, you guys are going to love, so stay tuned. In the meantime, in between time, support your favorite true crime podcast. For all my subscribers and those that donate, I'm going to do a meet and greet where you can ask questions on Zoom March 23rd. March 23rd is going to be my meet and greet. If you subscribe, click the link at the bottom of the page or the screen from whatever app you're listening to, and you'll hit listener support. You'll be able to subscribe that way. Or you can Cash App the Infamous Ones podcast Cash App, and you can pay the $4.99. It will allow you private access where you can ask me one-on-one questions. You'll see how I research. You'll get sneak peeks on stuff that nobody else has. This is all on March 23rd, people. Okay. And again, support, support, support. So I have already blown out a microphone. I'm going to have to get better equipment. So if you all would like to contribute towards that, you can click on listener support on the bottom of the screen, or you can Cash App the Infamous Ones at $ Infamous One, ONE pod. Okay. If you have a case you want to hear more on that you feel has been ignored in the Black community, or if you are looking for ad space, or if you want to leave a review there as well, send an email to infamous1pod@gmail.com. That's INFAMOUSONEPOD@gmail.com. And I have been asked numerous times, because like I said, y'all know I stay snacking while I do these episodes. Yes, I do. And I stay drinking Stella Rosa. Again, shout out to Stella Rosa. But some of y'all asked, oh, well, we want to contribute. I totally understand. Appreciate that, because Stella Rosa ain't cheap. But you can either click on listener support, like I said, it's on the bottom of the screen, or you can Cash App Infamous One Pod. That's IN or $ INFAMOUSONEPOD. All right. Also, we are running a special for ad space. Make sure that you email infamous1pod@gmail.com so that you can learn about the ad space. I know there are several people that listen that have their own businesses and everything. So, of course, want to shout you out. So make sure that you email for the ad space. Next week is my birthday, y'all. So I'm coming with an extra special episode. I hope y'all are ready for, okay? Because the birthday girl is gonna turn up. All right, y'all. I done had like 2 glasses, so it is time for me to wind it down. Again, y'all, please share this podcast. Share the episodes. Leave reviews. It is much appreciated. Until then, y'all know what it is. I'm your girl Kay. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see y'all next week with a brand new episode. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Infamous Ones, a true crime podcast hosted by Kay. Be sure to like and comment on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe so that you never miss an episode.